Okay, so let's do a little bit of education regarding death and death doula and astronumerology. So we're going to take the most recent person, being Lindsey Graham, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I look at. So I'm going to share my screen, and let's share this. Let's share this screen first. I'm sorry, let's share this screen first. Okay, so this is Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Olin Graham, born July 9th, 1955, died July 11th, 2026. If you know me, you know I say you always die 3 months plus or minus your birthday. So in that 3 month window, that's just what I have seen. Now it's anyway. So here he was. So this is where I'm getting some of my information from. This is Lindsey Graham. This is Wikipedia. And that was his date of birth. That's the name and the place of birth. He was born in Central South Carolina. Died in Washington, D.C. at the age of 71. Okay? So that's where I'm getting part of my information from. And now let me share, let's make that one, and then let's share another. Okay, so now you should be seeing Lindsey Graham's Vedic astrology. So this is approximate because I don't have an exact time of birth. I think this is off a little bit, but not enough to change what I think about his death. So at this time when he was born, his dasha was Rahu and Ketu. He was born in that. Doesn't surprise me that he's born in that dasha. His home life and his public life being the 10th house there. There's 3 here, the 10th house being the areas of most concern. But from the death doula standpoint, the energy associated with death points to his Venus and Jupiter areas. And in this case, Venus is in his 10th house and Jupiter is in his 11th house. Now, Jupiter is with Mars, Venus here with the Sun, Mercury, K2. Now, I just want you to know that the Sun is very heated and Mars very heated. They, and associated close to Mercury, always indicate kind of an explosive energy, what feels violent type of energy because of the way it occurs. So that's how the death is. Now, when I looked at another thing from him, is his birthday being July 9th, 1955, makes him a 9 life path overall. So the 9 itself is associated with, and I will stop sharing and show you something else that I showed you guys before. Let's share this screen right here. So when I showed you guys, I made several videos about the energy of the different numbers. And when you look at the weak areas for the person with the 9, fever, stomach, back, jealousy, VD, gout, heart failure. And when that life path also is related to how you die. How you're born is how you die. Heart failure, of course, is one of the things that could be him. Now, it's one of the things. I look at several things to determine the final thing. Now, out of the Mars energy, the Sun energy with Venus and all of that, a VD type disease that caused some kind of issue could have been a problem for sure. But definitely I'm sure if someone looked into his life, he had some issues with that. But see this jealousy, meaning someone could have done something to him. That's a possibility, right? But in his case, heart failure was the cause of it. Now, let's look at another thing that I look at. Share a, oops, bring back. So let's share screen, this one. Okay. So now you should see his Vedic astrology chart from the date of his birth. Given his energy, what I look at from when he was born, the planets that would be at play when he died include the Sun, Venus, Mercury, K2, Jupiter, and Mars. And this is where I conclude that his actual time of death on July 11th would have been somewhere close to 21:42 and 46 seconds. Because right here in his death houses, he has energy. He has energy in Pisces, which is the house of death, right there. The Saturn is in that one, which is the third house, which is the actual first house of death. And then he has energy in the sixth house of death, which is the Sun and Mercury, which is in Gemini, which in his original chart, the Sun and Mercury were in Gemini. Add that to the Jupiter aspecting both houses and in a particular way being that it's close to it. And Jupiter's in the home. But anyway, the eighth house, which is also a house of death, he has the K2, the Venus there, which was originally right there next to each other. And then that is in Leo, which is from the Sun, right? Ruled by the Sun. Over here in his fifth house, you have Mars and Moon, which was it is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, which is the opposite of Libra, which was there before. So all of those planets are lined up together here, and this is where I would expect his time of death to occur. Now, according to his actual birth chart, being in, let's see, the Dasha he was in, the Rahu and K2 Dasha he was in there, and then the Mars. And what I'm interested in is whether or not there was Mars, which was the explosiveness of the heart attack, where that Dasha is. And so if we go up here to Lindsay, July 11th, he started in his Moon and Sun Dasha. That's in 2026, but anyway, it goes to Mars Dasha happening in 2027. And that would have been the most violent time for him as far as the death energy goes. But the moon reveals secrets. The sun, of course, is associated with it. For me, that sun energy is there. And let's look at his original chart and see. So let's stop this and let's look at his original chart. In his original chart, his Dasha here would have been the Venus and the Moon energy, and the Venus was in that house indicating of death. So he died in the Venus Dasha, which would be in line with him. He would have either died in the Venus or the Jupiter Dasha, or somewhere close to it. But with the Venus having the most combustion as far as this energy being present here, I would assume that would be the one that he would die in. And it, according to his original original chart. Um, that would have been where the energy would have definitely been more than likely his time of demise. So when I look over here I like to see what planets are around certain things, what other energies are floating around those areas, just to look and see like where Saturn is over here, which Saturn is up there by the third house, which is the house of death, as we saw. And then the Mars energy and the Moon energy over here, just see where that is rotating and what is with it. Like, where is Libra? So when you see Libra, which was before his seventh house, what do you see over here? You see Saturn there. Saturn was in Libra in his second house in the beginning, indicating a death. So Saturn is back around Libra. Definitely indicate this is lining up with probably the time of death. Let's see if rolling back is the Shah. This is the energy on the actual day of his death. It's a little slow. So obviously he didn't make it to the 2040s. So I just wanted to really make this video to show you that there's several things that I look at when I make a decision of which outcome is the one that is most likely how a person is going to die, or even when a person is going to die. Um, but when looking at his original chart, I would have thought he would have died between the ages of 66 and 76. That would have been where I would have put him. And of course he died in that time frame. Just okay. So July, that's, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's the Dasha, the Moon, the Venus, and the K2 energy. That Dasha, so let's go. And right here, we have the Moon, the K2, the Moon, the K2, the Venus, all of that's on this side. So yeah, so I would feel confident seeing his time of death would have been at 9:42 p.m. or somewhere close to that. Okay, let's stop sharing. And going back to, there's one other thing I want to show you. When I look at his attitude number is 7. When a person has an attitude number of 7, one of the things that shows up in their weak area, and I made a video about this before, is things like a bad diet can make you ill, varicose veins, strokes, difficulty to diagnose, a problem with the veins in their pathway shows up as with that 7, the attitude number. And in this case, from what I am reading online, his cause of death was obviously due to an issue with an artery that made its own path in his heart, and that is what ended up leading to his death. Of course, heart attack being the top thing with that 9 energy, but also being an issue with the Mars hitting the sun and all those, is that's like the explosion. And really, like, not to say that his heart exploded, but it did make his own new pathway, and that led to the cardiac arrest that he suffered. And I don't know exactly the official diagnosis on his death, but it was heart related. So when you look at the 7 heart related issues like veins and things of that nature, strokes and stroke, similar. I like to say when you have a thrombosis, if it happens in your brain, it's a stroke. If it happens in your heart, it's a heart attack. If it happens in your lungs, it's a pulmonary embolism. But some of the same mechanism of clotting. And most of the time, heart issues are associated with bad diets. Of course, we know there's genetics, but there's that's something that shows up with that 7 in his attitude number. Okay. And then he would have been a Cancer. And for a Cancer, and I can show you this one just so you guys can see. Problems that Cancers have, the people who are Cancers or have that Cancer energy, include the chest, the breast, stomach, lungs, heart, knees. So, that's another thing right there. So looking at what I do when I'm looking at the cause, I look at all the possibilities, and then I look at what is a common denominator. The heart comes up as a common denominator in several areas for him. And with that being the case, that would have been the most logical aspect. He didn't have some of the things that I look at that show, like when a person is killed by somebody else, or that shows up a car accident or any of that kind of stuff. He didn't necessarily have those. Although, side note, Venus is indicative of car accidents a lot of times, but I would have not Venus in Gemini, right? I would have expected Venus to be in other areas. So just the whole way this is set up, that's how I would have expected it to be. Heart being the number one thing that would have happened to him. Sexual disease would have been another way that I would have been like, that's a possibility. Third thing is a violent encounter, like someone in the heart kind of thing. That would have been the third way that I would have looked at possibilities of how he would meet his demise. Okay. So I wanted to share this because people ask me what I look at and different things, and they want to know when I'm, but most of the time I intuitively look when I see the chart. Most of the time, first thing happens is I'm like, oh, this energy comes up that says heart attack or whatever, or that's their time isn't now. Like with DT, like I told you guys. In his chart, I do not expect him to go until it's like, I guess, four more years from now. I think I will have to look at him again, because once I finish with the chart, I just kind of move on. But I think, like, some people are expecting him to go like this year and stuff. I don't think so. 85, somewhere closer to 85 was the age that I had in mind. But I said after 80, the window was open, but I expected it to be closer to at the 85 range. So, but alright then, hopefully this helped.